started with a 5 a.m. TikTok. No captions, no explanations, just shaky camera work. A suitcase being wheeled through the dark, and a girl whispering that she was sneaking out of her host family's home in Milan. One hashtag stood out. Hashtag horror story. That word alone sent the internet into a frenzy. People assumed the worst. She was in danger. Was this a human trafficking situation or some kind of abusive host family? And why wasn't she calling the police or an embassy? Why was she just documenting it?
I'm sneaking out of my host family's house. Let's go. It's 5:43 a.m.
The TikTok quickly exploded. It had suspense, mystery, and just enough vagueness to get anyone speculating. The creator, Ella Catherine, a 21-year-old who until then had a fewer than 1,000 followers, but in a matter of hours she went viral. Her hashtags, hashtag unpair, hashtag get me out, and that chilling hashtag horror story were designed like a breadcrumbs in a digital mystery trail. Viewers felt invested, protective, even they wanted justice. But this wasn't some fictional saga. This was real life.
Oh my gosh, I'm literally shaking. That was the scariest thing ever. I couldn't figure out how to get past the gate, but I got it. And carrying all these bags, it's kind of scary. I just hope the train comes soon. Okay, I made it to the airport. I had to take an Uber because the train wasn't coming for another 30 minutes. So I'm at check-in gate. I don't know when I'll get checked in, but I made it. Thank gosh. So I'm still sitting here at the airport. I haven't checked my bags because I couldn't check until 2.5 hours before my flight. And I came here like 5.5 hours before my flight. So yeah, I've just been chilling.
And when Ella finally returned to the United States and began explaining everything in a 6-part video series, that sympathy turned into suspicion. People started realizing the horror story might not be so horrifying after all. What began as a rescue narrative slowly transformed into a case of miscommunication, unpreparedness, and maybe even entitlement. The internet's collective tone shifted fast. Suddenly, people weren't just concerned, they were skeptical. Was this a calculated move for clout, or was Ella genuinely overwhelmed and mishandled by her host family? The line between victim and villain started to blur, and Ella's story became less about dramatic escape and more about cautionary tale that sparked a global debate. So what really happened in this house? Why did she flee in the middle of the night? And most importantly, was it justified? Let's walk through Ella's story step by step. Keep it honest, raw, and simple. Because what started as a viral stunt now deserves a deeper dive into the truth behind the hashtags. Before the sneak out, Ella was a definition on Instagram. Wildly vibes. Her TikTok was filled with dreamy footage of Italian cobblestone streets, expression shots, scenic balconies, and vibrant cityscapes. It looked like an European adventure straight out of a Pinterest board. But behind the lens, she wasn't just there to sightsee. She was working, or at least she was supposed to be. Ella had moved to Italy to take up what she believed would be 3 months au pair job. She had found a host family using a platform called Au Pair World. Now, here's where things already got shaky. Au Pair World is not an official agency. It's more like a matchmaking site. Think dating app. But for babysitting gigs in foreign countries, no contracts, no HR, no policies or safety nets. Just chat, vibe, fly out. That casual setup may sound appealing to someone young and adventurous, but in Ella's case, it became the very loophole that unraveled everything. Without a contract in place, there were no legal protections, no written expectations, and no consequences if things went south. It was a setup built on trust, and trust, it turns out, was in short supply. To be fair, Ella clarified early on that this wasn't a free trip funded by anyone else. She paid for everything herself, flight expenses, the whole deal, racking up over $1,000 just to get there and back. And she made a point to say this wasn't some influencer vacation masked as a job. She wasn't looking for leisure. She wanted cultural exchange. She thought she was stepping into a work and learn situation that would give her both real experience and some adventure on the side.
Here's a highly requested story time on how and why I had to sneak out of my au pair family's house in Italy. I just want to first say that I did not expect at all that video to do what it is doing right now. I'm like still in shock. I'm like really like don't know what is happening right now. This is gonna be multiple parts, so I'm sorry, but it has to be that way because I have a lot to say. And I want to make a disclaimer, I did pay for my entire flight there and back. They paid for nothing, and I can promise you this was not a vacation in my eyes. Like, I did not spend over $1,000 to fly there and back in less than a week. And I did my research, so all y'all can zip it. But we're gonna start from the very beginning. If you don't know what an au pair is, it's basically someone that goes to live with a family in another country, and you either watch their kids, you do light housework, and in return you get food and board. So I met my host family on Au Pair World. This is something that I've seen a lot of people do. It's not an agency, so it's not like official. I didn't pay for anything. We didn't sign any contracts, anything like that. But that is where I met my host family. Also in these videos, we're referring to them as host mom, host dad, and host child. That's what we'll do because we don't need to be getting in trouble. I'm just telling my story, my experience. Okay.
The duties according to the host mom's profile were straightforward. Wake the child up at 8 a.m., help get dressed, give him his morning milk, pick him up from school at 6 p.m., eat his dinner, clean up after him. That's it. The schedule promised Friday afternoons and weekends off.
Host mom reached out to me. She said she liked my profile. She wanted to get to know me more, wanted to chat with me. I read over her profile, and on there were the things I'd be doing. This included waking her son up, getting him changed, giving him his milk, walking him to school at 8:30, picking him up from school at 6, so he was in school all day long, and then heating up his dinner, and then I clean up after dinner. I also had Friday afternoons and weekends off. So if
Every au pair's dream. It sounded organized, respectful, and totally doable. On paper, it looked like the perfect fit. They even had a warm FaceTime chat before she booked her flight. The host mom seemed kind, bubbly, and welcoming. They seemed to click. It felt safe. It felt right.
Fast forward a little bit, we FaceTimed twice. We got along very well. She was very talkative, seemed very nice, and I was really excited. I had let her know I was interested in coming to live with them. They agreed. They said that we'd be a good fit. So I then booked my flight to Italy and left for Italy 2 weeks later. So it was quick. It was quick. They wanted an au pair as soon as possible. So I gave my work like 3 weeks notice. Mind you, remember we have no contracts. I paid for my flight. So I was supposed to stay 85 days total. So about 3 months. Yeah. So to make this more organized and explain everything, I think I'm going to break it down pretty much day by day. And I was there for 4 total days. I'm posting part 2 right away. So go check that out. And
so within 2 weeks of that conversation, Ella had packed her bags and booked one-way flight to Milan. She was excited, she was hopeful, she was prepared to spend 85 days helping this family, exploring Italy in her free time, and documenting the journey from her small following. But the dream dissolved quickly. Within just 4 days, she would go from optimistic newcomer to viral runaway, and no one, not even Ella, saw it coming. Her first day in Italy started like a fairy tale. Ella was excited, nervous, and full of hope. Everything was new, the scenery, the luggage, the people, even the air felt different. After being picked up by the host mom at the airport, she was taken to the family's home. She unpacked her bags with a sense of fresh beginnings, but that hopeful energy didn't last long.
Au pair family's house in Italy. Go check out part 1 because that explains a little bit more of the backstory. So I arrived in Italy Wednesday, April 2nd at 12 p.m. My host mom met me at the airport, picked me up, and we went back to their house. At this point, everything was good. I was still so excited to be there. We got home, I unpacked everything, and then we sat down to eat lunch.
It was over lunch, not long after she arrived, that the first crack appeared. The host mom began venting about work. She had apparently just been demoted. According to Ella, the host mom launched into a full-on emotional unload, expressing frustration, sadness about her job situation. For Ella, it felt abrupt and too personal.
This is the first red flag. At lunch, she starts ranting to me about her job. Apparently, she had been moved to a different position that was like lower. I honestly don't know. It was hard for me to understand a lot of the times. I just know that she was not happy. She got moved to a different position. But that was the first red flag. She already started putting her problems, like just ranting to me. And I had just got there. So after lunch,
especially for someone who had only just met in person, she found it off-putting. This wasn't what she expected hospitality to look like. But here's where the debate began. Was it a red flag, or was it just a tired mom feeling comfortable enough to open up to a new guest in her home? Some viewers thought Ella might have overreacted. After all, emotional venting isn't abuse. It might have just been awkward timing. Others agreed with Ella, saying it is not fair to drop emotional baggage on someone who just landed and hasn't even caught her breath. That evening, Ella encountered her next issue, the language barrier. She was told to go grocery shopping, but not with the host mom. Instead, she was paired with the host dad, who spoke no English, and Ella, she didn't speak any Italian. They relied entirely on the Google Translate to communicate.
Lunch, I settle in a little more, and then my host mom tells me to go with the host dad to the store so that I can get some food for breakfast and lunches for me. This is the second problem. This was a huge problem because the host dad spoke no English at all. He spoke as much English as I speak Italian, which is none. I can say ciao. This was like one of the main problems because they needed an au pair because the host dad is gone Monday through Thursday. He travels for his job, so he's gone Monday through Thursday. I was expecting the host mom to be teaching me these things, but instead I go to the store with the host dad. It's quite awkward because it's just silent. He can't speak to me, I can't communicate to him. When we're in the store, it's hard to communicate. We're just using Google Translate for everything. But we go to the store, we get the things we needed, and we get back home.
Then came another surprise. She was asked to join the host dad in picking up the child from school. Again, no instructions, no context, just get in the car and follow along. Once they got back home, she was expected to help warm up dinner for the child, but she had no idea how their kitchen worked. The host dad tried to show her, but the lack of shared language made everything 10 times harder. She was already feeling overwhelmed. The plan, according to the host mom's written description, was that she would return from work around 7:30 p.m. But she didn't get home until after 9. Dinner, not her responsibility, host dad handled it. Once dinner was over, Ella figured it was time to call it a night. But the host mom stopped. She needed Ella to bathe the child first. The request stopped Ella in her tracks. She hadn't signed up for that, at least. Not according to the host mom's profile. It wasn't on the original task list. There had been no prior conversation, no heads up, just an assumption that she would do it. Ella didn't argue. She did what she was asked, but deep down, it left her uneasy. She felt like expectations were already shifting, boundaries had already been pushed.
I woke up, got ready, went to the kitchen so that I could learn my morning tasks, what I'm supposed to be doing. I got up around 8 and the host dad and the host child come out into the kitchen. The host dad gives him his milk. Again, this is the problem. The host mom is the only one that speaks English here. The host dad speaks as much English as I speak Italian, which is none. The host child doesn't speak English either. The host dad is trying to show me how to do these things, but there's this big language barrier here. So this is why I just didn't understand why she couldn't have been helping me. The host dad got him his milk, didn't show me how to heat it up, didn't show me how much I'm giving him, nothing like that. And the host mom was still sleeping. The host mom ended up getting up at around 8:20. By the time we were ready to leave to take him to school, it was late and we had to take the car again, which I still needed to learn how to use the public transport and or to walk the directions to get there. So we drive, take him to school. It's awkward, it's hard to communicate, but I do it. And then when I returned home, I decided to take a little nap. I was still jet lagged a little bit. So I took about a 2-hour nap and I wake up to the host mom texting me, "Hi Ella, where are you?" So I get out of bed, I go into the kitchen and she's there. Also, I didn't understand this because I thought she was supposed to be at work. Like the things she says just aren't adding up. So she tells me that I should go walk around. So I'm like, okay, let me just get out. So I make myself some lunch and then I head out. This was my first full day in Milan. I did a vlog on it, so you can go look at that. You can see that I'm very happy. I was so happy when I was out of the house. I loved exploring the city I was in and I loved meeting new people. But when I was in the house, I felt like trapped. I felt uncomfortable. It was just not what I was expecting at all. So when I got home, again, we drove to pick up the boy and I was with the host dad again because the host mom had gone to work later. Don't know why. We got home. The host dad tried again to show me how to make his dinner. And then after he eats, we go into the living room, hang out. And the host dad goes to pick up the host mom from work. This is like 8:30 at this point. They get back at like after 9:30. He doesn't have a far commute to work, so I was very confused about that part. Like, where did they go? Why did they leave me alone with him so long when like I'm just learning and I barely learned anything because of this language barrier? I had to give him a bath again that night, which is fine. I would have done it and been happy doing it if it was what she had said I would be doing. But instead she said I would be cleaning up after dinner while she gives him a bath because she wants to spend time with him because she's at work all day. That was day 2, but my first full day. Day 3 and 4 are really when I just couldn't take it anymore. So come back.
This moment was where the tone of the story started to change. Some still sided with her, others not so much. Because let's be real, bathing a child isn't exactly extreme. For many au pair jobs, that's standard. So was she right to be bothered? Or was she unprepared for what the role actually involved? The question split the internet. And it's where people started asking, was Ella really the victim? Or just in over her head? Day 2 didn't help her case. Ella said she tried to follow her responsibilities, but the child didn't speak English either. She couldn't understand the host dad's instructions. After a short nap, she woke up to a text from the host mom asking where she was. Confused, she found the mom in the kitchen, home early. Without warning, the mom told her she could go explore the city. Ella did and said it felt freeing compared to feeling trapped in the house. That word, trapped, ached many. This was a job, not a vacation. You weren't trapped, you were working. She kept saying the host mom wasn't helping her learn, but many viewers asked, how was the host mom supposed to magically fix the language barrier? Ella was in Italy. Shouldn't she have learned some Italian? Friday came, and it was her afternoon off. She went out with new friends, texted host mom asking if she should pick up the child. Host mom said no, host dad would do it. She returned home, bathed, then joined host dad and the child. She read on the couch. Host dad cooked. Host mom arrived at 9 p.m. and immediately snapped.
April 4th. So this morning went exactly the same as the previous morning, except this morning I stood up for myself a little bit. I asked if we could please take public transport so I could learn how to do it, because Monday I would have been doing it by myself. So again, the host dad and I take the host child to school, but we use public transport. So he's trying to show me how to use public transport. We're just kind of looking at his phone because, again, the language barrier. If you go back in my other videos, you know that the number one problem is that the host mom isn't helping me at all, and she's the only one that speaks English. So we get back home. I had the day to myself. This was the day that I met up with the other girls, and it was super fun. I vlogged that day as well. At around 2 o'clock, I text the host mom asking what time I should be home so that we can go pick up the host child, and she replies to me saying that the host dad's gonna pick him up and I didn't need to come home because, again, normally I would have my Friday afternoons off. I hang out with my friends a little longer, and then I walk home. When I get home, I decided to call my parents. No one was home at that point. I called my dad and mom for the first time since I had been in Italy. I was very emotional. I got off the phone. I texted the host mom asking what time she'd be home, just because we'd been having dinner so late and I wasn't expecting that at all. Just not as late as we were. We were having dinner like 9:30, 10, 10:30 every night. When she said we'd be having dinner 7:38. I texted her about 6 p.m. asking when she'd be home. She said about 10 minutes. So I get in the shower, I shower. At this point, the host dad and the host child were home. So I grab my Kindle and I go out to the couch and I hang out with the host child. He's playing, I'm reading. The host dad makes the host child dinner, gives him a bath, and then he's like still playing. At this point, it's like 9 p.m. The host mom is still not home. This is the first instance when my red flag alert immediately started going off. So she comes home a little bit after 9 p.m. I was still reading on the couch, hanging out with the host child. She comes into the living room and proceeds to raise her voice at me. She was not happy that I was sitting there reading. She asked me why the host dad was doing everything, why I wasn't helping him cook dinner, why I didn't bathe him, why I wasn't playing with him, why I wasn't cleaning up his toys, all of these things. And I was just honestly confused. I apologized because that's just what I do. I apologized. I said, I'm sorry, this is maybe a miscommunication. I thought that I had off. You had told me I didn't have to go pick him up from school. I'm sorry. And she kind of just said, you need to be paying attention, and then just walked away. Anywho, that night we eat dinner. I cleaned up, and then we had a tablecloth on the table that we didn't have previously. So I asked her. She was sitting on the couch. Table's here. Couch, table. I asked her what I can do with the tablecloth, and she tells me to ask the host dad. I just couldn't understand why she couldn't have just told me what to do with the tablecloth and why I had to go ask the host dad when the host dad doesn't speak English. Oh my gosh.
Why wasn't Ella helping? Why was she relaxing? Ella apologized, assuming it was her time off. She cleaned after dinner, then came a weird moment. There was a tablecloth that hadn't been there before. Ella asked what to do with it. Host mom, sitting right there, told her to go ask host dad, the man who couldn't understand her. Ella was frustrated. Why dodge such a simple question? This, she says, was her breaking point. She decided to leave the next day. Saturday was supposed to be a nice day trip to Portofino. They were to leave before 9 a.m., but host mom overslept. Ella, already annoyed, didn't make a scene. They drove to the beach and had lunch and walked around a nearby town, but Ella was left alone with the child as the couple wandered ahead. She felt like she was back on duty. On her day off, things hit a boiling point when they were leaving. A car honked. Host mom got in and immediately lashed out, saying Ella wasn't paying attention or helping. Ella was shocked. She had just spent the entire day caring for the kid. In the car, host mom continued, saying she needed to be more attentive, teach the child English, bond more. Ella felt repeatedly scolded. She changed her flight for the next morning.
Italy. Saturday, April 5th, this day was the day that broke me. I just want to remind everyone that Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday were my days off. I chose to spend it with them that day. We were going to Portofino. They were going to show me around Portofino. So I woke up at 8:15, got ready for the day, and was out and ready to leave by 9. The night before, the host mom had told me we were leaving no later than 9 as it is a 2-hour drive to Portofino, and we want to get there early. So she walks out of her room at a little past 9 in her pajamas. She had just gotten out of bed. And honestly, this really annoyed me because I was tired too. She had me up late the last night. She slept in and I was ready at 9. Okay. I didn't say anything. Of course I didn't. She got ready, I dressed the host child, and we left. Got focaccia for lunch, which was really good. This was at about 12. Afterwards, we went to a beach and we sat there for about 3 to 4 hours. So after the beach, we got up, we walked around. This was about 5 p.m. And then host mom decided she wanted to stop at another pretty town. We went there, we walked around a lot. I will say, I was being left with the host child a lot. He's a slow walker, so they were walking away in front of me, and I wasn't gonna just leave the child, so I was walking with him, either holding his hand, or at times I'd pick him up and we'd run to catch up with them. But they were just kind of ignoring me and just leaving me with him. Again, it was my day off, but I chose to be there with them.
She didn't say goodbye, didn't comfort them. She just left. Why? She said she didn't feel safe. She said host dad's job made her uncomfortable. Though she never elaborated, she didn't want to see how the host mom might react. At the airport, she texted them a long message explaining everything. She didn't feel respected, didn't feel safe, wished them the best, but viewers pointed out nothing truly scary happened.
This part is where everything just changed for me and I realized I just needed to get out of there. We leave at around 8 p.m. The host dad pulls the car around. I get in the car. The host mom puts the host child in the seats and we get honked at because we're just sitting in the middle of the road. Duh. I would honk too. And immediately, the host mom snaps at me. She gets in the car, raises her voice at me again, saying that I wasn't paying attention, I haven't been helping at all today, and I'm not learning. First off, I was pushing the stroller at least half that day. I held his hand. I carried him. I stayed back with him while they were way ahead of us. So I was paying attention. You were not paying attention. She just snaps at me and I just wasn't understanding. But I was just like, okay. I just kept saying okay. There was no point in arguing with her. So at this point, I decided I wanted to leave. I changed my flight to the next day. I do want to say I didn't tell them that I wanted to leave for multiple reasons. One, I felt uncomfortable. I didn't necessarily feel safe. Two, the host dad's job, I'm not going to say a lot of details. It was something in a field that made me uncomfortable and kind of made me a little bit scared, and I didn't know how she would react. I decided that I just needed to get out of the house. I felt super trapped. On the car ride back home, we get stuck in massive standstill traffic. I was exhausted, so I fall asleep in the car, and then the host mom wakes me up, and she turns around, she raises her voice again, and starts telling me that I need to be reading to the host child, I need to be teaching him English, interacting with him, and again, paying attention. At this point, again, I was just so tired. I had a massive headache. I just wanted to get out of there. By the time I got home, it was around 11:20. That night is the night that I packed everything back up. And then in the morning, as y'all saw, I left. That is why I left. I did feel very uncomfortable there. I felt trapped. I had a really bad gut feeling. I just needed to get out. And that's my reasoning to why I had to leave. I want to thank everyone that has been supportive of me and choosing to leave, to trust my gut. That was my story, my experience.
So why act like she barely made it out alive? Ella refused to share the host mom's response, saying it wasn't just the internet's business. People weren't buying it. You made it their business by posting everything else. Some accused her of being entitled. She responded, if being privileged means living at home, having food and a roof over her head, then yes, she's privileged. But she pays her own things. Flights, clothes, necessities. Still, the internet wasn't impressed. She framed the family's house as a horror story. But nothing she described matching that level of drama. Here's where the internet split into two camps. One side said Ella was lazy, entitled and unprepared for life as an au pair. She didn't try to learn Italian. She wanted host dad to speak English in his own home country. She called a job tramping. She expected structure and support, but had no contract. She picked her family off a casual site, expecting to run it like an agency gig. The other side said the host family took advantage. They didn't communicate properly. They added duties on the fly. They criticized instead of guiding. If she was off duty, they shouldn't have dumped the child on her. My personal take, this whole disaster could have been avoided with one thing, a contract. If Ella had written duties, she could push back when things weren't outside of the job description. If the family had expectations, they could have explained clearly. But without paperwork, boundaries blurred, frustration grew. Ella's story isn't horror. It's a cautionary tale. We may never see the host mom's response. Maybe it did tear Ella apart. Maybe it didn't. Maybe this whole thing was exaggerated. Or maybe it's a 21-year-old overwhelmed by adult life. Either way, it got people talking. It showed how easily culture exchanges can turn sore when expectations aren't aligned. So what do you think? Was Ella in the wrong? Was the host family shady? Should she have stayed and worked it out? Or was sneaking out the only way? Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more real stories that go beyond the algorithm.